Have you ever been in a situation where you really needed to explain how you felt?
Oh, absolutely. And it's tough enough in your own language, right?
Exactly. But imagine trying to do that in English when you're thinking about your grammar the whole time. It just freezes you up.
That feeling of wanting to talk about something important, maybe about a friend or work relationships, but the English words just disappear. It's the worst kind of silence.
That's the feeling we are focusing on today. We want to help you break that silence.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leo.
And I'm Mia.
Welcome to the English Blend. We are talking about something super important today, how to talk about relationships naturally.
And by relationships, we mean all kinds of connections. Friends, family, colleagues, and yes, romantic relationships too.
But the real lesson is how to get your English flowing so you can actually connect with people.
That's the key. We're going to look at why worrying about perfect grammar is often the thing that stops you from building those connections.
We call that the grammar trap.
Exactly. So grab your coffee and let's get started.
So, Mia, when we talk about speaking English, we often hear two big words, fluency and accuracy.
They sound similar, but they mean very different things when you are learning. They are really important concepts.
Can you give us a quick breakdown for our A2 and B1 listeners?
Sure, let's start with accuracy. Accuracy means being correct. It's about perfect grammar, the right verb tenses, and correct pronunciation.
So, if you are focused on accuracy, you might take 20 seconds to say one sentence because you are checking all the rules in your head.
Exactly. You are trying to be perfect like a textbook, and perfection is exhausting, right?
Totally exhausting. Now, what about fluency?
Fluency is the opposite of stopping. It means keeping the conversation going. It's about communication.
So, even if I use the wrong tense, but you still understand my idea, I was fluent in that moment. I got my message across.
That's it. Fluency is about moving forward. It's about being understood, not being perfect. Think about having a chat with a new friend at a cafe.
If I stop every 2 words to check if I used have been instead of had been, the poor person at the cafe is going to leave.
They will be bored. The relationship will end before it starts. Communication fails.
We see this all the time with learners. They have B2 grammar knowledge, but they speak like A2 learners because they are constantly worried about errors.
They prioritize accuracy, which actually hurts their fluency. It's like trying to drive a car but stopping every 10 feet to check the engine oil. You never reach your destination.
That's a great analogy. You are moving, but very slowly and awkwardly.
When you talk about relationships, say you want to tell your partner you are happy about something, you just need to say it. I feel very happy today because of you.
If I said, I'm feeling happy about thing you did yesterday, you understand me, right?
I 100% understand you. The relationship survives. The grammar is a little messy, but the feeling is clear.
So for our learners, especially A2 to B1 level, which one should they focus on first?
Definitely fluency. Focus on getting the point across. Focus on communication. Accuracy can come later, step by step.
It's a huge shift in mindset, though, because in school, they always check the red marks on the paper.
Yes, school teaches grammar accuracy, but real life needs fluency. Nobody in a real conversation is carrying a red pen.
Unless they are really mean, but hopefully your friends are nice.
Hopefully. Let's talk more about why focusing on grammar, the accuracy part, actually creates a huge block. So we talked about the grammar trap. Why does trying to use perfect grammar actively stop people from speaking fluently?
It uses up all your brain power. Think of your brain as a computer.
I like that. A very tired computer sometimes.
When you are speaking, your brain has 2 main jobs. Job 1, formulate the idea. What do I actually want to say about this relationship or topic? Job 2, choose the language, finding the words.
But when you add the grammar check, you are forcing the computer to run a third, very heavy program at the same time.
Exactly. The third program is this past simple or present perfect continuous? Did I use the correct preposition?
And because that third program is so heavy, the entire system crashes. You stop speaking, you panic.
It often happens when people are discussing sensitive things, like feelings in a relationship. They worry about saying the wrong thing, and then they worry about the wrong grammar. Double stress.
And the person listening thinks, oh, they don't want to talk to me. The relationship suffers because the communication failed.
So what's the solution to this grammar overload?
We need to change the goal. The goal isn't being a language professor. The goal is communicating with your friend, your colleague, or your partner.
It's about speed and flow over correctness. I need to keep the conversation moving.
We need to train our brains to use language in chunks.
Chunks. That's one of our core tips. Wait, what are chunks exactly?
Chunks are groups of words that naturally go together, like one big word. We don't build sentences word by word. We use chunks.
Like, how are you doing? Or, it's not a big deal. That's 2 or 3 words, but it comes out as one sound.
Precisely. When you use chunks, you don't have to check the grammar inside that chunk every time. Your brain just says the whole phrase. It speeds up the process significantly.
So instead of building, I am going to the store, I just pull the chunk, I'm going to the store.
Yes, and this is so important when talking about relationships. Think about expressing doubt. Instead of constructing, I think that I am not completely sure about this situation, you just use the chunk, I'm on the fence about it.
That's a fantastic chunk, and it sounds really natural.
It is a great example of natural, spoken-style English. If you learn enough chunks, you bypass the real-time grammar check.
So the rule here is don't learn single words. Learn phrases and sentences.
That's right. That's how native speakers talk about anything, especially complex things like relationships or feelings. We don't analyze our tenses. We just rely on patterns we've heard 1,000 times.
And this brings us to another important tip that supports learning these chunks: massive listening.
Massive listening is key. It means listening a lot, maybe even when you don't fully understand everything.
Why does listening help me talk about my feelings or my problems with my boss?
Because listening loads those chunks into your brain. It shows you how English is actually used in real conversation.
It's not just hearing the words, it's hearing the melody and the rhythm of the language. It's understanding the natural flow.
And when you listen to native speakers talk about their lives, their problems, their relationships, like on this podcast, you are absorbing the language naturally.
So if I listen for 30 minutes every day, even if I'm just doing the dishes, I am subconsciously learning those chunks.
Absolutely. And when you finally need to speak about a difficult subject, maybe a misunderstanding with a friend, those chunks will be ready to come out.
It reduces the friction. Less friction means more fluency.
It's the difference between building a house brick by brick versus using pre-made walls. Chunks are the pre-made walls.
Okay, let's move on to another incredibly practical tip for increasing fluency, especially when you are speaking live. This is great for those high-pressure relationship moments.
We call this the 3-second rule.
I love this one. It's so simple.
If you are asked a question, maybe a friend asks, hey, what do you think about John and Sarah's situation? And you have to answer. You have 3 seconds before your brain freezes and goes into grammar check mode.
So if you don't start speaking within 3 seconds, you are much more likely to start worrying about accuracy.
Precisely. If you hit that 3-second mark, your internal grammar judge wakes up and stops the show.
So the rule is, say something, anything, within 3 seconds.
Yes, it doesn't need to be the perfect answer. It just needs to break the silence. Use a filler word, use a simple opening, just start the engine.
Like, that's an interesting question. Or, well, let me think about that for a second.
Those are all chunks too.
Exactly. Those little phrases buy you time and keep the fluency going. They signal to the listener that you are still in the conversation.
If you wait too long, the listener might think you didn't understand the question, or maybe that you just don't want to share your opinion on John and Sarah.
And that's a relationship issue, right? The goal is always to maintain communication. The 3-second rule forces you to prioritize flow.
This concept really changed how I spoke when I first started learning Japanese. I used to wait for the perfect sentence structure.
Tell us the short story, Leo. It might help our listeners see this in action.
Okay, this happened when I was talking to a new Japanese colleague. We were discussing a project that wasn't going well, a classic work relationship stress moment. I wanted to say, the project is difficult and we need to change the strategy starting next week.
A complex thought, lots of tenses.
Yes, so I started thinking, change, strategy, next week, future tense. Wait, should I use will or going to? I paused for maybe 5 or 6 seconds.
Oh no, the grammar judge was ruling the court.
Totally. And my colleague looked at me concerned and asked very slowly, "Are you okay?"
Oof, that's painful.
Yes, I panicked and just said, "Yes, okay, difficult." Only 2 words. The communication totally failed.
You hit that wall. You got stuck.
Exactly. If I had used the 3-second rule, I could have just said, well, the project is tough, you know? Simple, clear, and the conversation continues. I would have maintained the relationship flow.
So the lesson from Leo's story is, do not let the search for accuracy kill the conversation. A simple, slightly messy sentence is always better than silence. Silence is the opposite of fluency.
And remember, even native speakers make small mistakes. We use sentence fragments, we restart sentences, we use filler words like and That is natural English.
So we've covered massive listening and the 3-second rule. Those are 2 powerful steps.
Let's quickly review the practical tips we've discussed so far, and then we'll introduce the last few.
Tip 1, prioritize fluency over accuracy. Communication is the goal.
Tip 2, learn and use chunks. Don't build sentences word by word. Use pre-made phrases.
Tip 3, engage in massive listening. Listen often to load those chunks into your memory.
And tip 4, use the 3-second rule. Say something, anything immediately to avoid the grammar freeze.
Let's now introduce some specific language that helps us manage conversations and avoid panic. These are useful phrases for managing stress, especially when discussing tricky relationships.
The first phrase is essential. Get your point across.
When we say get your point across, it means successfully communicating your main idea, even if the language used wasn't perfect.
It's the definition of successful fluency. My goal isn't perfect grammar. My goal is to get my point across to my friend.
For example, I was worried about the presentation, but I managed to get my point across to the management team, even though my English was a bit rusty.
You succeeded in the communication, which is the most important part of building professional relationships.
Let's move to a phrase that describes that moment Leo experienced in his story. Hit a wall.
When you hit a wall, it means you stop suddenly because of a problem, a difficulty, or a barrier. In language learning, it means you suddenly can't think of the next word or phrase.
The grammar judge made you hit a wall. You stopped talking.
You might say, I was talking about my feelings to my sister, but when she asked me a follow-up question, I suddenly hit a wall and couldn't continue.
It's a very descriptive phrase. And remember, if you hit a wall, you can use the 3-second rule trick to restart the conversation immediately. Don't stay stuck at the wall.
Okay, the third essential phrase is maybe the most important for maintaining your learning journey and managing relationship expectations. Not the end of the world.
If something is not the end of the world, it means it's not a major disaster, even if it feels bad right now.
This phrase is your psychological defense against the grammar trap. You made an error, you used the wrong verb tense. Hey, it's not the end of the world.
If you mess up an important conversation about a relationship, it feels terrible, but you can always fix it later. It is absolutely not the end of the world.
I used the wrong preposition when I spoke to my boss yesterday, but it's not the end of the world. He still understood the report.
That phrase allows you to forgive yourself. Self-forgiveness is crucial for fluency. If you criticize yourself too much for every mistake, you will never speak.
Speaking is about taking risks, and risks mean mistakes. And mistakes are not the end of the world.
Let's talk about one more practical step for our learners, tip 5. This links everything together.
What's tip 5?
The record and review method.
Ooh, recording myself speaking. That sounds scary.
It can be, but if you want to improve your fluency in those natural conversations, you need to see where you hit a wall.
So the goal isn't to check my grammar while recording. What is the goal?
The goal is to record yourself speaking naturally for 60 seconds about a simple topic, like, what is the most important relationship in your life right now?
And then listen back?
Yes. Listen for the pauses. Listen for the moments where you stopped for more than 3 seconds. Those are your walls.
I should focus on flow, not errors. If I stopped, I need a chunk to fill that gap next time.
Exactly. That pause tells you, I need a chunk here. Maybe you paused because you couldn't remember how to say, I really appreciate. Now you practice that chunk.
So recording myself is a way to diagnose my fluency problems, not my accuracy problems.
That's the perfect way to phrase it. You are looking for opportunities to increase your speed and maintain your flow so you can always get your point across.
This helps us realize that if we make a mistake, it truly is not the end of the world.
Let's expand a bit on the idea of chunks, because this is often where learners who focus on grammar struggle the most. They think English is purely logical, like math.
And relationships are definitely not logical, so maybe that's why the two topics fit so well together. Language and feelings are both complex.
They are. When we teach English grammar, we teach the rules. Subject, verb, object. But in real fast conversation, especially when we are excited or stressed, those rules get bent.
And native speakers use idioms and fixed phrases that make absolutely no grammatical sense if you analyze them word by word.
Think about how you argue with a family member. You don't use long, perfectly structured sentences. You use short, impactful phrases.
Like, come on, or you've got to be kidding me, or I can't believe you just said that. These are all emotion-laden chunks.
If a learner tried to build, I can't believe you just said that, by thinking of the grammar rules for can't, believe, you, and said, they would miss the moment. They would hit a wall.
They need to learn that entire phrase as one unit. That means, I am surprised and slightly offended.
That's the power of chunks. And the only way to learn these relationship chunks is through massive listening. You hear how people actually react.
Let's say I'm watching a show where two friends are reconciling after a fight. I hear the chunk, let's just put that behind us.
That's a perfect chunk for resolving conflict. It means, let's forget the past and move on. You don't have to analyze the preposition behind or the verb put. You just use the whole expression.
If I only learned the words put, that, behind, and us separately, I might try to invent something like, we should locate that previous problem after our body, which doesn't get the point across at all.
No, and that would cause a new relationship problem. The listener would be totally confused.
So the grammar focus limits us to the literal meaning of words. Fluency focuses on the functional, emotional meaning of the whole phrase.
Exactly. And this is why the 3-second rule is so important. It forces you to rely on those stored chunks. It forces you to use the language that is readily available.
If I try to access complex grammar, I might need 10 seconds. But if I use a simple chunk like, I hear you, or that makes sense, I can respond in 1 second.
And that quick response keeps the conversation alive. It tells the other person, I am engaged with you, which is vital for any successful relationship.
Let's circle back to the story about hitting a wall with my colleague. I learned that if I feel myself freezing, I need a standard filler.
Fillers are essential for natural English. We use like, right, constantly.
They are not mistakes. They are communication tools. They signal to the listener, wait, I'm thinking,
Don't interrupt.
Is a perfect example. If I'm describing a confusing relationship situation, I might say, she was really upset about the whole thing.
That doesn't add meaning, but it confirms the connection. It asks the listener, are you still following me?
It keeps the flow. And that's what we want learners to achieve. Uninterrupted flow.
We need to give our listeners permission to make those mistakes, permission to be messy.
Yes, the focus must be on understanding and being understood. If you worry about the third person singular S when your friend is telling you about a major life change, you are prioritizing the wrong thing.
The human connection is more important than the verb conjugation.
Absolutely. And when you realize that a small grammar mistake is not the end of the world, you relax. When you relax, you speak faster and more fluently.
It's a positive feedback loop. More fluency leads to less stress, and less stress leads to even better fluency.
And the opposite is true. More worry leads to less speaking, which leads to more anxiety, which leads to hitting a wall.
We talked about tip 5, recording yourself. Let's talk more about what to do after you record yourself and identify those walls.
Once you find a spot where you paused too long, you need to deliberately practice a replacement chunk.
So if I paused because I wanted to say, I totally disagree with that statement, but didn't know how,
You practice saying, I totally disagree with that statement out loud 10 times quickly. You want it to become automatic.
So that when I am in the real conversation, I don't have to build it. It just comes out. It's a ready-made communication tool.
Think of it like a toolbox. When you start learning, your toolbox is empty. You spend time on grammar, learning about hammers and nails.
But when you need to fix a relationship problem or talk quickly, you need the whole screwdriver ready to go. You don't have time to assemble it.
That screwdriver is the chunk, and massive listening is the only way to fill that toolbox with ready-made tools.
It takes away the pressure to be constantly creative with your grammar.
And it really helps you to get your point across efficiently.
Let's imagine a scenario. A listener is at work, and they need to talk to their manager about a misunderstanding that is damaging their professional relationship. They are nervous.
If they rely only on grammar, they will stop and start, and the manager will lose confidence in them.
But if they have some basic chunks ready, like, I want to clarify the situation, or there seems to be a misunderstanding on my end,
Those phrases sound professional and flow smoothly. They prove fluency even if the subsequent explanation has a few errors. The first impression is strong.
and those strong chunks help them avoid hitting a wall when the manager asks a difficult question.
That's how real communication works. It's a dance between known phrases and flexible grammar. But the known phrases lead the dance.
So our ultimate advice is be brave enough to be wrong.
Yes, errors are information. If you don't make an error, you don't know where you need more practice.
If you make a mistake, it's just a signal. It's not the end of the world. It means your brain is learning.
And every time you speak, even with mistakes, you are improving your fluency. You are strengthening those connections in your brain.
We want our listeners to be able to talk about difficult, emotional topics like personal relationships with confidence. That confidence comes from fluency, not perfection.
Let's review all 5 tips one last time, in simple English.
Tip 1. Focus on flow. Keep talking. Don't stop.
Tip 2. Learn phrases. Learn word groups, not single words.
Tip 3. Listen a lot. Hear how people really talk.
Tip 4. Use the 3-second rule. Respond fast to avoid the grammar freeze.
Tip 5. Record yourself. Find where you pause and then practice the chunks for those moments.
And remember those useful phrases we covered.
Get your point across. Make sure your message is understood.
Hit a wall. Don't stop when you face a challenge. Push through.
Not the end of the world. Mistakes are okay. Keep practicing.
Fluency is like riding a bicycle. When you first start, you might wobble and fall, but you are moving forward.
Accuracy is trying to balance perfectly without ever moving. You need to move to learn how to balance. So start speaking, start moving.
That was a great talk.
Yes, we hope this helps you build better relationships, both in life and with the English language. Practice those chunks today.
Join us next time when we talk about how to negotiate salary in a new job. That requires lots of fluency.
See you in the next episode of The English Blend.